Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, Stop the New World Order, welcome to HPANWO TV and welcome to this. We're going to do another watch party, guys. Now this actual watch party is one that was partly a viewer request, and several of you have said can we do a watch party about this film, but as it happens I was already considering a watch party about this particular film because it is one of my favourites, and I think it's one of the most HPANWO-esque, if you know what I mean. We're going to be doing a watch party about They Live. They Live is a film which I think most of you have seen. If you watch HPANWO TV, you probably watched this film. Even despite that, you know, I'm going to watch it again. I hope you will watch it again. It's a film from 1988 by John Carpenter, and when I say by John Carpenter, he does almost everything. Carpenter's best known as a director, but in this case he also wrote the screenplay, did a lot of the production design, and also he composed the score. I didn't know he was a musician, but on top of everything else he's also a musician. So he composed the famous score though, you know, with really sinister sort of laconic harmonica melodies and things like that. So yeah, he did that, so this is really much his own work. When the film was released in 1988, it was a flop. It was considered just a second-rate B-movie which would just fade into obscurity. And it got terrible reviews, low box office takings, but and then people thought it would just be forgotten. However, like a lot of these films, in a way a bit like Wag the Dog, although less so, because Wag the Dog did maintain more, it was a bit more popular and maintained a bit of popularity. They Live has experienced something of a resurrection. Now, it's an interesting question. Why is that? And really, since probably the late 90s, early 2000s, it started to come back into people's consciousness. There's many reasons for this. I mean, for example, it's one of the reasons is, I think, is because it has started to appear kind of prophetic, in the same way that Wag the Dog is. Now, I should say that it's interesting to compare Wag the Dog to They Live. Wag the Dog, of course, was the subject of the last watch party we did, and I say we, not me, because it's funny that, but it is a kind of we, because it's a kind of interactive experience I'm doing with you, the HPANWO TV viewers, rather than me just sitting here rapping at you, you know. Yeah, it's comparing it to Wag the Dog is very interesting, because there's a lot of similarities to it. There's a lot of similarities between the two films in which there's some kind of hoax going on with reality. People are essentially being sold a fake version of what's really going on. People believe in something that's not real. They believe that their world, the world they live in, is something that it's not. That's the basic plot of both films. However, with Wag the Dog, of course, it was all connected to the media. It was all connected to the news and current affairs versus production and fiction. This connection between the two and the overlap and the fact that one is sold as the other. That's the major theme of Wag the Dog. With They Live, it's a little bit more extreme than that. The actual secrecy, the kind of secrets that is kept is far more esoteric. And it's far more frightening, actually, even than the, you know, admittedly rather creepy element of Wag the Dog. You know, with all the humour that's in Wag the Dog, it is a comedy. It's still quite chilling at the end. This is far more so. It's not funny either. It's not a comedy. It has its funny moments, but it's not a comedy. Now the themes. This secrecy can mean almost anything you want it to. This is another reason I think that Wag the Dog has kind of become considered a very, very underrated at the time, and now it seems to have come into its appreciation. And John Carpenter's still around, so I hope he's pleased about that. The symbolism of the film, the secrecy, what is covered up, it's often thought to be an allegory of something in the real world. Indeed, David Icke was talking about this. It's actually David Icke that got me into watching this film, because he mentions it. Now, John Carpenter, you see, John Carpenter, there's a sense that John Carpenter is actually trying to talk about something real, and he's using this metaphorical secret to deliver the to deliver the truth about that secret. And this sort of thing is actually it's a good way of getting information out. As I've explained before, this is why I write allegorical fiction. The Roswell trilogy, what I consider my masterpiece in terms of fiction, is an allegorical novel. It's a story which tells a real thing. Same with George Orwell. George Orwell wrote 1984. As a result, it's become one of the most classic pieces of literature, and really the father of all major modern dystopian literature. And it's probably done more to wake people up to the cautionary message than it would have been if Orwell had simply written a factual book. If he'd written a factual book, it would have been forgotten. He'd have been labelled a conspiracy theorist. The book would be an unknown. Instead, 1984, classic work of English literature, and this is something similar. People have often said, well, maybe he just wanted to make a good story. No, it's. Does he know something? Does John Carpenter actually know something? I mean, in his other films, for example, The Thing is another good film. That's actually an adaptation of a short story. There's no evidence of this. It's a great story, The Thing, by the way, but there's no evidence that it's particularly meaningful. But David Icke makes the point, John Carpenter might have been trying to reveal something through this fictional thing, through this fictional allegory, something he couldn't have said in real life. He could never have said what he actually knows in real life. He may have discovered something in his various collaborations. He's collaborated with a lot of other interesting people, such as George Lucas, the director of Star Wars, until someone else took it over and completely trashed it. Things like that. So, is John Carpenter trying to reveal something? Now, according to his own words, he did actually say in an interview once what inspired him to make this film, and it sounds rather prosaic. He just said, I came up with the idea for this film during the era of President Reagan. I didn't like his economic policies. I didn't like the fact that his monetarism did terrible things, raising unemployment, causing poverty, things like that. And it also caused huge divisions in class. Class divisions within the United States. There was a big widening gap between the rich and the poor, things like that. And Carpenter said that's what I wanted to symbolise. I noticed the emergence of a kind of yuppie class, a very self-satisfied kind of middle class and upper class people who seemed to break themselves off from the rest of society and didn't really care about the rest of us. That's Carpenter's own words. Of course, other people have interpreted it in different ways. In fact, like several groups have said, oh, it's symbolic of the old J words, and what they do and things like that. So that's on the kind of far right, but on the far left, some socialists and Marxists have actually quite liked this film. They say no, it's actually symbolic of the secrets that's been covered up. It's symbolic of capitalism and the oppression of the working class and things like that. I think there's a few wokies who like this film because they say, well, look, this secret is obviously a allegory of the patriarchy or white supremacy and things like that. So they live as kind of a mirror on which you can project any image you want. It's a blank screen. It's a tabula rasa for your own imagination, for your own interpretation of the film. Maybe that's one of the reasons why it's had this comeback. And it's a well-deserved comeback. I mean, it's the first time I saw it, I was gobsmacked. I really was. David Icke was saying, "You've got to watch this. You've got to watch it." Now, David Icke interprets the secrecy far more literally. The nature of the secret that's been kept. This is the equivalent in Wag the Dog of the fake news, the fake war. And unlike with Wag the Dog, you essentially the viewer is brought into the secret from the beginning. You essentially, the viewer is put into the role, in an interactive sense, as movies often are, as being involved in the secret itself. You're an insider to that secret. You're told about it from the beginning. The main characters are all the creators of this hoax. With Wag the Dog, it's different. Sorry, get my films away. With They Live, it's different. They Live is a very, very different. Has a very, very different perspective. because the central character, and indeed the people around him, the supporting characters, are people who don't know what the secret is. They're the people who essentially are like the viewers in Wag the Dog. The people who are crying through emotion of this fakeness. The story of Wag the Dog is how they uncover that secret, how they find out what's really going on. So I think we should look into this, definitely. Interesting things about this. The cast. Now the cast is very interesting because there were several characters such as Meg Foster and people like that. Meg Foster is probably the most famous member of the cast, but for all the others are quite not so well known. It is a B movie in that respect. A B movie being one which has a lower budget and doesn't, they don't bring in famous people. It is in that respect a B movie. The main character though is not even an actor at all. Well, he's not. He's somebody who is a very, very strange choice. And maybe we can discuss this more when it comes to the live stream about why Carpenter cast this man. The man he's called Roddy Piper. He actually died a few years ago. I remember it was during the Basis Project conference, and if you've seen the videos you'll know that I covered that at the time. I was the MC of that conference, and as a little tribute, I came up on stage when the new speaker was going to come on, and I put my wristwatch up to my mouth and said, "We've got one that can see." But that's just a tribute to Roddy Piper. Roddy Piper, he was 61 when he died, I think. He wasn't that old. Roddy Piper was a Canadian by nationality, although he has Scottish roots, like many Canadians do. And he's very proud of those Scottish roots. He was a wrestler. He was a pro wrestler, basically, and he used to come into the ring wearing a kilt, tartan shorts and things like that. And he could play the bagpipes and things like that. He spent a lot of time in Scotland. He was always visiting his family over there, and he considered himself Scottish. He was known as Rowdy Roddy Piper. From what I can tell, I mean, I should look into this some more, and we can discuss this during the live stream. I don't know of any other acting role he did. His performance was, well, I suppose wrestling is a kind of acting, especially like the old classic style wrestling. The Undertaker, Big Daddy, things like that. So that guy somehow ends up playing the main role, and his name, it's funny because his name is not actually mentioned at all. He's a nameless character in a way, and but then at the end he is credited, and his name is simply he's called John at one point. Actually, come to think of it, I think he's called John. We'll talk about this afterwards. But some people say his name's John. I don't know if that name is actually mentioned anywhere. But in the credits he's simply called Nada, N-A-D-A, which I believe means nothing in Spanish. Nothing, or nobody, I think. I can't remember. We'll talk about it in the live stream anyway. You can correct me in the comment sections. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to watching it again. I've watched it about 6 or 7 times. I'm looking forward to watching it again, just for the purposes of this watch party. Even though I remember it so well, I'm going to watch it again, because you never know what might come up. And indeed, I ask you to do the same, because probably most of you have watched it already. But please do watch it again, because you can often find other things which you didn't notice before with a second viewing. And of course this came up in my last video actually, because none other than Majid Nawaz, one of my favourite follows on social media, he seems to be a fan of this as well. And he, like I say, he's been getting very, very red-pilled lately. He's moved from his normal political field into something much more radical. And indeed, They Live is about as radical as you can get in terms of conspiratorial themes. So I'm interested to see what he comes up with. So we're going to do the watch party now. It's gonna when will the next bit be? Okay, it's going to be like before. It's going to be a trilogy. This introduction, then there will be the review segment where I will do a solo review of it. Then there will be the live stream where we all get together and we discuss it after we've all seen it. The review will not be for a couple of days. Now I'm going to actually do another live stream before then. I'm planning on doing a live stream this Sunday, which will probably, if I get it done, it'll probably be about cryonics. I'll put up a notice tomorrow night anyway. Now, it won't be till late tomorrow night because I'm actually going away tomorrow. I'm going somewhere very interesting. I'm not going to make a HPANWO TV film about it, but I'm going to write an article on HPANWO Voice, so I will probably refer to it at some point, probably in the live stream. But yeah, there's probably going to be a live stream on Sunday, most likely about cryonics. It's one I've been meaning to do for a while. But do watch the HPANWO TV blog and the channel for the notice, which will probably be tomorrow night if it happens. Then it'll be the following evening, 7 PM. Do remember the clocks go forward if you live in the UK. And so yeah, so I'll be away tomorrow, but so I won't be reachable. But I'll be back tomorrow evening. So that's it. Watch party number 3. They live. Let's get on with it. Thank you all of you for watching HPANWO TV. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity. Stop the New World Order.